Just give it a few seconds to let everyone in from the waiting room. All right, I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves. Good afternoon. This is an emergency informational hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston regarding licensees in Allston, Brighton with liquor licenses for on-premise consumption of alcohol. Today is Thursday, August 13th, 2020. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the website. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to temporary changes made by Executive Order of Governor Charles Baker to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. While the vast majority of licensees in the city of Boston are working diligently to adapt to the changing guidance and to provide a safe dining experience for patrons, the board has received numerous complaints of COVID-19 operational requirements. Specifically, the board has received numerous complaints, including both pictures and videos of licensees in the Allston Brighton area. These complaints include patrons standing at the bar, patrons standing around tables, patrons failing to social distance, both in line outside the licensed premise and inside the licensed premise, patrons not wearing masks, both in line and inside the licensed premise, patrons smoking, restaurants operating as clubs, restaurants allowing dancing, including adult dancers, which is a violation of both the Boston zoning code and the rules and regulations of the licensing board for the city of Boston. Again, some of these complaints have been egregious and have been accompanied by videos or photos. Public health and safety are of the utmost importance to the board, and the purpose of this emergency information is to ensure our licensees are operating in a way that conforms to the Commonwealth's guidelines and the operational requirements and ensures the health and safety of each licensee, the patrons, employees, and the general public. With that, I will introduce the chairwoman, Kathleen Joyce.
Good afternoon, I'm Kathleen Joyce. Thank you for joining us today. I'm joined on the call by my other commissioners, Commissioner Kiana Saxon, Commissioner Liam Curran, and we also have Detective Eddie Hernandez of the Licensed Premise Unit. Let me begin by saying I was asked by the Mayor's office to conduct this hearing with the Allston Brighton licensees because of the number of complaints. I was specifically asked to schedule a hearing for Allston Brighton. Since then, the governor has come out with revised restaurant guidance, so we're going to use this as an opportunity to go through that guidance. But please know that Allston Brighton, the number of complaints from this neighborhood has been unacceptable. We understand that the governor's new guidance and regulations are changing, and incoming public health metrics are pushing the new guidance that's coming out. We also know that students will be coming back to the city in the coming weeks, and it's essential that every licensee demonstrates that they can operate safely and in compliance with the governor's guidance. As you are aware, the new executive order asked, among other things, that licensees ensure that food is brought to tables as plated meals served to the table. Licensees must ensure that there are no lines and no congregating if patrons pick up their own food from a service area. An item of prepared food must be ordered at the same time as the initial alcoholic beverage. Food items must sufficiently serve the people in the party. Potato chips, pretzels, and other prepackaged or manufactured foods do not constitute food prepared on site. Licensee must ensure that masks are worn and social distancing is observed. Reservations are encouraged. Contact information should be collected in case there is a need for contact tracing. A licensee wishing to host a private event at a restaurant must now adhere to the indoor-outdoor guidance. That would be 25 people inside. So if you're closing your restaurant down for a wedding, a private party, a bridal shower, you now can only have 25 people. The governor's executive order and its accompanying guidance state that there can be no lines outside or inside. If you hit your maximum social distancing capacity, you must disperse any patrons seeking to enter. You cannot allow a line to form. We understand that these guidelines are changing and they may be confusing, so please use this opportunity today to ask us questions. And I would like to also address the seating at bars. It's come to our attention through photographs and complaints to the licensing board that bars in Allston Brighton are allowing patrons to sit at the bar In order to use your bar, you have to reconfigure it as a table, and service must be from the restaurant side, not from the bar side. We will be inspecting, and so will the state, and we will be issuing complaints and incident reports, and you will be subject to a violation hearing.
Again, we do know that the vast majority of licensees are doing the right things, but as the chairwoman stated, there have been egregious violations that we have seen evidence of. To date, the licensed premise unit has been conducting inspections that have been more focused on education and working with all of our licensees as we all learn to operate safely with the new guidance and regulations. But a number of these violations are simply blatant disregard for the requirements to be open and operating during this pandemic. And with that, we are here both as a resource and as looking at this as a learning opportunity. So we're happy to answer any questions that you may have if you're unclear about the governor's guidance, the board's various advisories, or what is or isn't permitted. We do want to emphasize that we're seeing increasing numbers of reports of places operating as nightclubs, not as restaurants. The purpose of reopening is to, one, help the businesses that have suffered the most during this, but two, to provide dining. There should be absolutely no entertainment inside other than background music. And with that, the board will open this to questions.
Hello.
Hi.
Please state your name and your license.
My name is Pedro Alarcón. I'm the secretary chef from Pica in Brighton.
Hi.
304 Washington. How are you? 304
Good.
Washington Street. I just want to know if you already know we are here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think the purpose behind the initial request from the mayor's office to call the hearing was there seems to be lack of understanding by the licensees in this neighborhood about what constitutes proper indoor entertainment. Anything that's not background music is not permitted. So if there's anyone on this phone that is on this call that's aware of something that goes beyond background music, you might want to discuss that with us. Dancers, dance floors, not allowed.
Can I speak for a moment? My name is Mark Tugardi, and I'm the manager at Garage Boston in Allston. Yeah, it was very confusing at first on how everything was supposed to be ran, the guidelines and everything. Of course, I just want to for other people on this call, we did get a little in trouble for more than background music, and just to help out other people, just make sure you have the sequence on your phone to make sure the music isn't loud enough, because we got in trouble for that as well. I just want to help others and make sure they're aware of there's a distance of I forget the name of it. It's like a sequence of how loud it can be. So, just to give everybody a heads up, and be everybody aware. Of course, it's all
Okay, and thank you to Becca in my office who put in the chat that it's 70 decibels.
Decibel. That's what.
And also no dancing. No dancing at your establishment. Yeah.
Yeah, we also
and no shared drinks. You can't be having scorpion bowls and people drinking out of shared drinks.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Okay.
Dancers, we were just trying to do an entertainment on there, and it got a little out of hand, of course, and we completely stopped that immediately. And we also closed the doors last week once the mayor stated, even though we had an extra week, we wanted to make sure that everything was all taken care of, and it was a little too much than supposed to. So.
And I just want to emphasize the intent behind the governor's guidelines is public health first, because we are still in a pandemic. It's not to be punishing to these licensees. We want to be helpful, actually, and they're looking at this all through the lens of public health first. So we're trying to prevent gathering and clustering of people. And so your neighborhood especially is going to be impacted by college students returning. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind. You have to control crowds. People need to be seated at tables, eating food and drinking.
Right,
and
absolutely.
Eating food with their drinks. There's no clubs. There's no shows. There's no dancing. And if you have any questions before you accept money and give out tickets to your events, you might want to call us, and we'll guide you as best we can through what the guidelines are. And I see that, I think ISD is on the phone,
I believe
and
ISD,
Boston Police.
I believe Captain Harrington is here as well. Captain, did you want to say anything?
No, they're monitoring that garage. We have had some problems down there. We will continue to monitor what's happening down there. I hope the board puts Mr. DeGatti on notice for the violations that were written already.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Thank you, Captain.
And I believe Commissioner Dan Manning from ISD is here.
Thank you, Leslie. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Dan Manning. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of the Health Division for ISD. I know all of you probably know at least one of our inspectors over here, and I'm sure, you know, more than a few. Our role throughout this whole process has been to just make sure that, you know, as always, you know, you're abiding by the food code. And, you know, this industry, particularly the food service industry, was, you know, I believe best suited to handle the challenges with COVID-19, because you're all already equipped and educated in dealing with food handling safety practices, avoiding the spread of disease and whatnot through food. And, you know, it's, you know, we need your help and we need your partnership to continue, you know, doing the best we can to make sure that social distancing is at the forefront of your operation now. You know, obviously anything beyond social distancing falls in the food code, and I know that everyone here does their best to not violate the food code, but we really need your help maintaining the distance in the businesses, maintain, like as the chairwoman said, the distance of folks outside of your business is also your responsibility, the gathering and whatnot. And also we will also be out as well. We got back in the field full time and during phase 2. I'm sure you've all, some if not all of you have seen an inspector over the past couple months doing routine inspections, but we're also going to be ramping up our inspections in areas that have been of concern, like Allston, Brighton right now, particularly with the students coming back. We'll be in the area a little more than we usually are. So again, thank you for your compliance and continued help with stopping the spread of this disease.
Detective Hernandez, do you want to add anything? I know you're out in the neighborhoods and I know you're talking with the licensees. Do you have any more observations that would be helpful? Oh, did I lose you?
Sorry, I think I lost you there. But yeah, just to keep an eye on the lines and the people getting close to each other inside of the bars. That's what we've been noticing a lot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions from licensees?
I have a question. Thank you for the opportunity and for the information. Everybody in my businesses, and I can speak for the Avenue Bar, Harry's Bar and Grill, Hopewell Bar and Kitchen, and the Kenmore, which is not in the district. We have not had any lines or people waiting to get in at this point. But I anticipate that some of the college students are coming back, obviously not all of them. And if a large number of people were to approach the front of one of our patios or the front door of one of my businesses for inside dining, if we decline to admit somebody and they want to come in and they say, can I wait out here? It's just a little bit of a difficult situation because we can't legally really control people outside. And Captain, if you have any recommendations, I'd be happy to hear them. And I don't know if there's a group of people congregating outside, we can tell them that we're not going to let you in, but it's just a little bit of a balancing act that I'm hoping you can give us a little guidance.
Thank you, Doug. I think we've heard that from some of the other licensees, and I think the message has been fairly clear that if you're not wearing a mask, you're not getting in. If you're not abiding by social distancing, you're not getting in. We understand this is difficult, but it is on you to a certain extent as the licensee to be able to police those lines, to disperse those lines, to ensure that they are adhering to all of the requirements. We want to be as helpful as possible, but at the end of the day, it is your liquor license that's on the line. So I think the suggestion that we've made to other licensees is to make sure that you are adequately staffed to handle that, or don't open.
So can I further elaborate on that comment? So if we, again, and to elaborate what Doug said, if we can promote people wearing masks that are standing 6 feet apart, is that acceptable to wait to get into the building?
So all I can say is that we are in the same position as you. We're interpreting the state's guidelines. So I would think if people could safely stand 6 feet away wearing a mask, you would be okay. But I can't say that definitively. We're still getting, again, I think this is thrust upon us in part by fear. I think neighbors drive by and see these people clustering in lines, and they call the police, they call 311, they email the licensing board, they email the state, they call the ABCC. So I know everyone's doing their part, but there's a fine line. You have to control the lines.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't to be punishing. This is being done for public health purposes. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the answer is. You just can't have lines unless people can properly social distance and wear masks. You'll have to tell people to not stand in line, or tell them that you're closed. I don't have a solution for you. We've heard this from other neighborhoods too. It's difficult, especially when, the neighborhood swells on the weekends or when college kids come back. But all we can do is tell you, what we're hearing and what we think the guidelines say, and recommend that you find some internal processes, hire more staff, because those are the rules and regulations, and they're coming from the state.
Okay, may I weigh in on that as well?
Yep.
So I think that my interpretation of your question and concern is about, whether or not you can have people outside in a safe manner compared to what the captain and such are describing as an issue. If you look at what's happening outside of a Starbucks in the morning, Starbucks isn't getting a call. We're not getting calls on the line outside of Starbucks because people are, they marked out some space in front of their business, or, any coffee shop for that matter. I shouldn't just promote Starbucks. But, they've, marked out on the sidewalk outside, 6 foot separation between patrons, and are able to kind of control the flow. Obviously, a coffee shop's a lot different than a restaurant. However, it does give that, that image of folks giving each other 6 feet and wearing masks. And from the ISD perspective, we haven't had a complaint on that type of line forming since the beginning of the pandemic. So I think that if you have clusters of folks gathering, congregating directly outside your business, it's going to be an issue. But if you have a vessel or a method, I should say, to space folks out, I assume that we won't get the same level of complaints and calls and having to come out and enforce.
And the other piece of this that I want to touch upon is public confidence. We're hearing from licensees that they're trying their best, that they feel like they're operating in a safe manner. And we had a call early this morning with Boston's public health group, public health, and we're trying to come up with creative ways to help the licensees that are operating safely, so that we get the message out to people that the public should have confidence to come back and dine at your establishment. And I know that's a concern that we've heard a lot about. So stay tuned the next couple of weeks. Boston's really thinking about this. We want to be as helpful as we possibly can, but you have to show us that you can operate safely. And I think that message will get out and the public will be back. So we need to work together on this. We don't have all the answers today, but we just want to let you know how we understand the guidelines as they are today. We understand that your neighborhood is unique, but you have to take into consideration the reasons why these guidelines are put into place, and do the best you can. You have to ensure that there are no lines, everything is socially distanced, and the public is safe when they are in your establishment.
I have another question or a comment, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to make a couple of points. We heard about a lot of sort of bad behavior and bad practices that was happening in certain locations and beer gardens. And a lot of people feel like the governor has put new restrictions on other operators who are trying to do the right thing. And I just want to express what I know a lot of people are feeling is we're trying to do the right thing, and more, for example, the restriction on not being able to serve someone a drink unless and until they order food, it's making it more difficult, and everybody's worried about the winter. And just the other point I wanted to make is that we are accountable and responsible operators, and I can speak for all of my venues and almost all, if not all, of the operators who are on this call today. And there is history of bad behavior by 21-year-olds and older in unsupervised environments. And I'm anticipating that when the students come back and young people come back, there may be a very large number of neighborhood parties, group gatherings, and if all of the restaurants and the venues are closed tomorrow, that problem is going to get worse. And I know this is a little bit out of your purview, but you get the opportunity to speak to decision makers in the governor's office. We are offering a supervised environment. And if we all close down and if we can't operate in the winter under the existing conditions, the problem may get worse.
I appreciate that, Doug.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Madam Chairman, I have a statement to make. I'm not a licensee, I'm a patron. Am I allowed to make a comment?
Yes.
I will, currently I am concerned and I will no longer eat indoors because I've come across more than once where parties are seated and they're served alcohol, which is fine. And then they see friends on neighboring tables and they move around. I understand someone can get up and need to go to the restroom, but I don't believe patrons should be able to ambulate around a restaurant because that defeats the whole purpose of segregation for safety's sake.
You're right.
Puts another burden on the licensees, and I really feel badly for the restaurateurs who are suffering badly and have to be policemen now. But I'm 73. I live in Cleveland Circle. I'm anxious, and all of my contemporaries feel the same way. None of us are eating inside restaurants. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Philip, thank you for joining us. That's something we hear about all the time. We get calls, we get pictures, we get emails. People are saying they're driving by restaurants in the neighborhood, and even though there's 6 people at a table, people are standing up talking to the tables. That's not allowed under the guidelines. That's another burden on the managers and the licensees to control that. But those are the governor's guidelines as they are written right now. This is done to provide restaurants an opportunity to get back on their feet, and truly it's for eating and drinking. It's not for staying all night and socializing. That is the intent and the policy behind these guidelines, and you have to do the best you can to abide by that.
Are there any other questions? And as a reminder, the board and our staff are always here to answer questions. If you're not sure about something that you're looking to do, whether it's permissible or not, you will not be punished for asking the question. But going ahead and doing something and then the board learning about it, that is where you get into trouble. So again, you won't be punished if you say, I would like to have a restaurant buyout for a wedding. Can I do that? The board's going to say, you can, but you can have a maximum of 25 people inside. So you won't be, again, punished for asking the question, but it's better to ask the question than for us to find out afterwards and have to issue a violation notice.
I have a question. May I?
Yes, Pedro.
How about you? We have a restaurant in 304 Washington Street. We're ready to open, but we like to know if we can put some tables outside and the sidewalk, even though we have a patio, but the patio is limited to right now to 22 people, 25. So how many tables we can put in the sidewalk if we were allowed to do that?
Pedro, I think Becca, who's on the call, has she been working with you on this?
Who?
Has my staff been working with you on this? I think I've seen some emails.
Yes.
So we can continue to work with you. I think Rebecca, who's on the phone, has been assisting you.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
follow
I
up.
will. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And I
Thank
believe
you.
Bob Luz from the Massachusetts Restaurant Association is on the call. Bob, did you have any comments you wanted to contribute? Maybe Bob is, maybe he wandered away from his computer.
No, I'm here. Sorry. I apologize. I was trying to unmute. No, I apologize. I missed the beginning of the meeting. But, it goes without saying that we've worked hard with the administration to get restaurants reopened, food and beverage establishments reopened. And, the vast majority of operators are working diligently and doing everything they can to follow those standards. None of them wants a bad actor or bad character to take this down for anybody. So I think you're going to find, and from what I've heard since I've gotten on here, is, pretty strong collaboration about, look, we want to do things right. We want to make sure we do things right. And no one wants to go backwards. So it's important for every operator. We continue to work with them and with the administration to make sure we stay on top of things. There was some confusion on some of the announcements that came out with cities and towns on Friday that was clarified this week. So I think we're in a good situation. So thank you for having this meeting and for helping everybody.
Bob, could I just ask you for another moment of your time? We never heard from the state about revisions after Tuesday. I happened to see you post something on Facebook. Would you like to elaborate on that? I haven't heard for certainty that there's been a loosening of the guidelines as they were released to us on Tuesday. But your association stated something along the lines about, ordering food with the first alcoholic beverage. Has that changed?
Yeah, so we had a long meeting with them Tuesday afternoon with the ABCC.
Yeah, no one told us about this, so I'm curious to hear what the changes are.
My understanding was immediately coming out of that meeting, they were having a conversation with all public health departments from across the state. So I assume someone from Boston was on that, but I can't say that for sure. And out of that meeting, so what needed to just be clarified was that there had been a communication that tables could no longer, bar tables were able to be, or dining tables in the restaurant were able to be laid out to maximize the seating ability to get 6 foot distancing. And that included allowing them to abut perpendicular, if you would, to a bar. And what was communicated apparently last week in a call to DPH from across the state was that they could not do that anymore. And what they meant to say was that tables could continue to stay there, but service has to happen from in front of the bar on the dining room side. So a bartender, who might be behind the bar doing service bar, couldn't wait on that table there. They'd have to come around, whoever's serving that table would have to come around and serve from the dining room side. That was clarified.
I understand that one. The part that was confusing that was posted on your website was the must order food with the first drink. I think
Correct.
Your website said something different.
Yeah, correct. So they, and again, what was communicated was as soon as someone sits down, they had to order food before they could order a drink or anything else. And again, the attempt here is to clean up, in the governor's words, bars masquerading as restaurants that didn't really have true kitchens, that really didn't have true menus and weren't requiring food purchases. The group agreed that the normal service of, and this goes, we can all know this, you walk into a restaurant, what happens? Hi, my name's Bob. I'm going to be taking care of you today. Can I get you a drink while you read the menu? And they get a drink and then they order food. The intent is to order food, and food has to be required, but it does not have to be that. They weren't trying to reinvent the steps of service. And so they changed that and just said that the intent is that everybody has to order food, but it doesn't have to be the first step as soon as you walk through the door. So again, I was not on that call with DPH, but that's what I was told they were going in and doing and saying. So that is my understanding.
Well, you heard it from
And-
Bob.
What's
Heard it from
that?
Bob. Well, they've all heard it today from you, Bob, so thank you.
So you have to order that food. The other thing that was a number of cities and towns were confused on, they heard the 25 number and they believed that there was a rollback on indoor dining to 25% capacity. That was clarified that that is not the case. And as Leslie just stated, a function can have up to 25 depending on size, of the restaurant, of the space, and 6-foot social distancing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was it. That was that was what was clarified. That's the best of my knowledge, and I think those are smart, workable arrangements.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Hi, may I ask one question?
Sure.
Just to clarify, so restaurants are capable of serving a drink first while they are considering their order for food. They don't have to come out at the same time and that.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you.
So we've got a quick question, if possible. When we sort of all got rolling, many of us got extensions for outdoor space. I'm over at Brado Brewhouse and Kitchen in Brighton, and we didn't really take an extension. We just more repurposed our patio. But in the days since, we've sort of tried to figure out, and I know that there was some intimation by the board at the beginning of step 2 of phase 2 that ambient music may eventually be permitted on patios. I just wanted to follow up and see if that's still a thing, because as the clock sort of dwindles down on the patio season, I'm not sure if that's still something that's on the table being considered or where we're at with that. I just was curious before. I mean, like if it's granted in November, that doesn't really change much.
Right. So John, we're not issuing new entertainment licenses. If you have a patio that has already gone through the public process and received an entertainment license, you can use your entertainment. But if you have a brand new patio, we're not issuing new entertainment licenses. It would have to go through a full public process, which you can begin in the effort to do this for next year. And Rebecca, who's on the call, would be your contact at our office.
Understood. Yeah, we got neighborhood support a couple of weeks ago. I just wasn't sure. I was more curious because it was specific in the first issuance that it was specifically temporary restrictions. Like they might be down the line, we kick it in, but I wasn't sure. So it sounds like the door's been shut on issuing new for the season.
In Boston, that's the case. Again, we're trying to treat everybody fairly, and we're trying to prevent gathering and clustering. So we're not allowing any of these temporary outdoor spaces to have entertainment.
Understood. I wasn't sure if it was something that it had been intimated. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
No, I appreciate the question because I know other municipalities are doing it, but we're not.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, as a reminder, you can always reach out to licensingboard@boston.gov, or you can always call our office. The board has remained, although virtual, fully operational through all of this. So again, we're here as a resource, and do not hesitate to reach out. Before I turn it back to Kathleen, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Again, we want to be helpful, we want to be supportive, and we want to make sure that a few bad actors don't ruin it for everyone. With that, I'll turn it back to Chairwoman Joyce.
I just want to say thank you all for joining us, and please contact our office if you have any specific questions about your restaurant or any of the guidelines that have come out this week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.